Welcome everybody to the Taste of Success today. I am Nancy. I work at SuccessWorks within L&S Career Services. I would like to thank everyone for coming today. We have a great set of alumni panelists here to share their experience and answer your questions. We'll start by asking each alumni to give a brief overview of their career path and current role, and then we'll open it up for questions. Please know that any question is a good question. If you're thinking about the question, chances are others are thinking about the same question. So I encourage all students to think about questions as our panelists are describing their career journey. I will also have a few questions to ask myself. So let's begin. Julie Beal, would you please introduce yourself and tell us your career journey?
Sure. Hi, I'm Julie Beal, and I started off at the University of Wisconsin, like you guys. Radio, TV, and film. Wasn't really sure what I was going to do with that. I just knew that the industry itself spoke to me. I was very fortunate that right out of college, I was hired by Nightingale Conant Corporation to be an associate audio producer, and they had made audiobooks, nonfiction. So I worked with many big authors, Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra, Brian Tracy, and so forth. So I got thrown into the deep end right from the beginning. And I was fortunate enough to travel around and eventually to become a producer for these sessions, which was great. And then I also hired voiceover artists. And so that was also part of my thing in script writing. And so basically, eventually I left that because I have a hard time staying on one project. And they were taking me off the monthlies and then putting me on these like 6 at the time cassette tapes, these 6-tape programs. And I just didn't have the attention span. So I went and I did my own thing and I did some on-camera stuff, which I still do. It's been pretty crazy. So then, I decided after I had my son, who's now 17, that I would move into voiceover because I nailed it in the classroom. So naturally, it was going to be a great, segue. And I just got I made some demos, talked to the people I need to talk to. I'm in the Chicago area, so it's a great area to be. Not the top area, but plenty to keep you busy. And then I became a voiceover artist, and I've been a voiceover artist for 12, 13 years. But I've been within the industry, in some element of the industry, since I was probably 20. If it's on camera, behind the camera, producer, voiceover artist, MC, anything that you can do, I'm like under the catch-all. So I'm like a jack of all trades and probably a master of none. So have at it. Anything else you want to know?
I think more will be asked of you after we move on to Kait. But some of your got me thinking about your career path and how you figure out your strengths. So I'm going to just tease that out to you of like how you identify things that you're curious about as you transitioned into your other roles. So
just
before we answer,
buckshot, and wherever it goes is where I go, Okay. I didn't have a path.
We'll talk about that more. Kait, boss, I would like you to introduce yourself and tell us a little more about your career journey.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Good morning, or maybe it's afternoon where you guys are. I'm in LA, and I was a 2013 graduate from UW-Madison L&S Communication Arts, did the TV film production track, and also did a lot more with the actual like production classes that you guys might be doing as well. So my career from UW-Madison then took me to starting out my career in Madison, working first for a small company doing localization, basically doing translations and editing various videos and things like that, so it could play in various locations around the world. Stayed with that for about a year until I got a job with American Girl, the toy company, and it's owned by Mattel. And got started, they're based in Madison, if you don't know, and started working with them on their creative development team, creating and producing video content for them, and then eventually got to do everything from editing some of their characters' books and stories to helping produce a animated series for them. So we did two seasons of the series Welly Wishers. I'm sure everyone's watched it. It was a great hit. Just right what you guys probably were watching at that time. And so yeah, did two seasons of that before I decided to make the move out to LA because I really wanted to pursue a career in development. And so now I'm working for the Jim Henson Company. I'm their manager of children's television and work with showrunners, creators, writers, directors, all of the above to create children's television. And I started that last May, and it's been really interesting starting a new job in the pandemic. Some of you maybe started school in the pandemic, or have had other experiences where you've had to start something new during those times, and it's always very interesting. But it's been a good fit and nice to be able to figure out how we adapt in these times as well. And yeah, kids TV has never been more important, as they're all home and trying to be entertained all the time. So it feels like important work right now. So yeah, that's kind of an overview of me.
Great, thank you for sharing that story. I know we have a couple students on, and if students, if you would love, we would love if you would put in chat your major, if you declared a major, what year you might be in school, and then feel free to unmute yourself, raise your hand to answer any kind of questions. But I'm going to start with the first question so that the students can think about what they might be wanting to ask. My first question to you is, what are the employment trends currently that you see? And you talked a little bit, Kait, and Julie, you may want to speak to this too. Like if you were thinking today, especially in our current state, like what are some employment trends in your current field or company that students might want to know more about or should know more about?
I don't know. Julie, do you want to go first, or I can go? And yeah.
You can go. Yep, you can go, because we're going to come from completely different angles.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Sure. Sounds good. Yeah, it's a really interesting time. Obviously, physical production is a new beast in the time of COVID. There's a lot more protocols in place to keep people safe. There's fewer things going on, although there are productions happening, and they just have to happen in a very different way right now. So getting a job in physical production takes a little bit of a different turn right now, but in terms of what I do with development and working with writers and things like that, that's all been able to continue. And I work a lot in animation as well, and that's one thing that has been very successful during these times, being able to continue on, because we've been able to work with studios and individual people to get them set up to work from home and continue doing their work. So but in terms of employment trends, just kind of thinking about how you might find a job that's a little more work from home safe right now. But I'm sure there'll be a boom of things as things start to open up again. That will definitely, there'll be a boom, and yeah, so it's a good time to be maybe a graduating senior or something like that. So.
And then my take is, since I'm self-employed and have an LLC, so I'm not, while I'm obviously I'm affected by what the corporations are doing, because they're hiring, what their marketing is, how they've had to about face this year. You know, I don't really know specifically. All I know is that you have to be ready on the home front because a lot of the studios in Chicago, I've been doing the majority of my work from home. And the work that I've been getting, you know, the auditions had slowed down dramatically, you know, when it first hit. And then it started to pick back up again because then they started to capitalize on the whole COVID thing, you know, that emotional thing. But then you had to have certain technologies already in place in your home setup. You know, everything has really changed as far as, you know, going into like, because we have shoot all the Chicago shows here. And now, instead of going into Claire Simon or one of the casting companies, I'm self-submitting from home. And so, you know, for somebody who has done it one way for 30 years, it's I'm a little resistant. So that has been my challenge, is to adjust and get, you know, the Source Connect for the audio, and I have, you know, and the equipment, and just kind of figuring out, okay, how do I approach this new land? Because I think a lot of it is actually going to stay. If they don't have to get people in front of them, you know, then maybe they won't. Maybe this is more efficient. I don't know. Maybe you can cut out a stage where they meet people. So and I get my work through my agents, and so I don't really know how many people are coming into my industry or out of my industry at this time.
Well, we have Emily here, who's currently a freshman majoring in marketing and English, and Teddy's here. He's a third year communication arts and major, and Samantha's a senior majoring English. I encourage any students who want to raise your hand, or do you have a question you want to put in the chat? This is your time.